is up, Los Angeles, and welcome back to your Rams LAFB show. I am your host, Ryan Anderson, today with special guest, Brock Vierra, beat writer for the Rams from Rams on SI, Sports Illustrated man right here in the building. He's going to give us his take on the latest goings-on. We're going to talk a little Bucs-Rams, and we're going to take some of his readers' questions right here on the show. First off, how you doing today? How's life in LA treating you?
It's good. Definitely a lot of adjustments to life out here. A lot of downsizing needed, but I'm enjoying it. Love it out here. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the team so far. It's been a fun experience.
Yeah, I bet. What kind of a journey this team has been on? You know, speaking of the Bucs, it's like they both their trajectories have really changed over the last several weeks. It seems like the Rams now 6.5-point favorites last I saw, but new injury news coming out about the Buccaneers. Let's just hit this right off the top of the show. According to Greg Auman of ESPN, Bucky Irving, Jamel Dean, Ben Bredesen, and Hassan Reddick all ruled out for this game on Sunday. That should move the line a little bit more, I would say. But the Rams have their own injury news, and I wanted to get your take and information on the recent injury news. Quentin Lake, dislocated elbow, hits the IR. Rob Havenstein and Tyler Higbee, ankle injuries, both on the IR. Sounds like Quentin Lake might return for the playoffs, probably return for the playoffs. And these guys, no timeline, but their soonest they can come back is against Seattle in Week 16, if I'm correct on that. What are you seeing? What do you know? And what can you tell us about these injuries?
Yeah, so let's just start with Quentin Lake. First off, he had the elbow injury that he sustained against the Seahawks. Massive injury because this was a player who played every single snap for defense. Chris Shula called him the linchpin of the defense in the offseason. And surgery was successful. He is expected to be out for the regular season. Could return late, but very doubtful. The soonest we can expect Lake back is the playoffs. We're not exactly sure what round that's going to be in. Of course, the Rams have to do further testing and evaluation when they get to that point. But worst case scenario, he's out for the season, which means there's a possibility his Rams career is officially over as a player because, of course, he is on a one-year deal. We'll have to see how that's going to be worked out. He is a favorite with a bunch of other outlets in terms of being a candidate to be re-signed. But as we all know, that's not a position the Rams prioritize in terms of how they manage their money. To replace him in the interim, Josh Wallace is expected to get a whole lot of snaps. But what I'm feeling from the organization is this. Quentin Lake was such a unique player all to his own for a variety of reasons that there's a reason why he was playing all the snaps. Since he's not out there, there is going to be a type of rotation. What that rotation looks like, we still have to see. But there's several factors at play, and I kind of want to dive into them right now. Of course, as I mentioned, is Josh Wallace. The other name is, of course, Roger McCreary. We haven't seen McCreary yet play because still a new guy learning the system, so on and so forth. And there really wasn't an opportunity for him. So that could be where it works out. There's also Jerry McCullough, who the Rams love. They love to put McCullough on the field. McCullough's skill set is one of the reasons why the Rams love to go into their dime package so much, because not only is he a great pass defender, he's great against the run as well. They could also move Kobe Durant to the inside if that's an option they want to go to. I doubt it's going to be something that's going to be long-term for them because it would mess up their three-man rotation. But something to consider is that when Ahkello Witherspoon does come back, which is still supposed to be like week 14, week 15, nothing's really changed on that. Ahkello could go into that three-man rotation, and then they could move Kobe Durant to the inside if that's something that they want to continue to explore. So that's kind of the options going on right now. For this week, I expect a heavy dose of Josh Wallace, and I expect Kobe Durant to stay on the outside. And then they're going to slowly try and mix in McCreary, but I think out of Wallace, McCullough, and McCreary is going to have the least amount of snaps. That kind of takes care of that situation. When it comes to Havenstein and Higbee, there's not really much more to say outside of the fact of what you already said. They're going to be on IR at least until the end of the season because of the IR rules. Rob, of course, has been dealing with injury this past season, and he's been dealing with some things kind of dating back to last year. They're not all connected. I think he's an older player. This happens. The team has a lot of confidence in Warren McClendon to step into his role. He's going to be the guy moving forward. Rob continues to work with Warren to get him prepared. Rob's in the building every day. That's never going to change. Just he's not going to be on the field for them. But from a tactical perspective, changes nothing. Tyler Higbee's kind of the same way. It's not really known right now who's going to take his reps as in the especially in 11 personnel. I'm sure Terrence Ferguson's going to get mixed in there when it comes to passing downs. Colby Parkinson should see a lion's share. I expect Davis Allen to get some play as well. I also expect the Rams to activate Nick Muse this weekend in order to have the 3-10 set. I don't know how much Muse will play, but when you look at his skill set, it makes sense why they brought him in. Tall, athletic, able to make plays with the ball in his hand. So I expect Ferguson's role to increase because of this, and then also needs to get a few snaps here and there, but nothing overtly crazy. And that kind of wraps up everything with the three injured players for the Rams and what we know so far regarding them.
Yeah, I mean, a big question for me on both offense and defense with these injuries, Higbee being a big part of the 13 personnel packages, of course, and the using Quentin Lake in dime, I kind of see him as a big reason that they were able to play in dime so often. His size, his athletic ability, being able to match up with those guys on the other side. Are they going to make schematic changes, or are they going to continue to roll out a large amount of dime personnel and also roll with the 13 personnel as well?
So, of course, can't guarantee anything because with the Rams, they can switch it up at any moment. But I don't expect any major tactical changes or schematic changes from them. And the reason is because they have a lot of trust in Josh Wallace. So I'll tackle the defense side of the ball first. Going back to preseason, you just saw a commitment to his physicality. And that's what the Rams love. And that's what the Rams need from that position. Of course, Lake was a bigger player, so he's kind of able to play more of that linebacker role, which is going to be something to see if Wallace can be able to adjust to, or if on rundowns they bring in McCreary because he just seems like a more naturally bigger dude, kind of more built for that position in terms of the run responsibilities. With that being said, Josh Wallace he's a pro. He's going to get ball carriers on the ground. The difference is, can Roger be good enough in coverage in order to take Josh Wallace's spot? And I don't see that yet. That's why I think that Wallace is still going to have majority of the staff, and they're going to try to rotate in McCreary here and there. But from a whole tactical standpoint, again, I don't see much changes. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't want to use the term blessing in disguise because nothing about this is a blessing. This is terrible. And I feel terrible for Tyler Higbee. The only good news or caveat about it is that it's going to force the Rams to play Davis Allen and Tyler Higbee more. Against the Seahawks, this was a team that gave up, I believe, 9 receptions, like 120 yards and a touchdown to Trey McBride the week before. And your two most athletic tight ends, or two best pass catching tight ends, Terrence Ferguson and Davis Allen, combined for 0 targets against Seattle. And there were times where I was in the press box and I was just focusing on tight ends, regardless of who was in there. They were getting open. The ball just wasn't getting to them. Of course, this is the NFL. It's easy when you're the press box munching on Parmesan garlic wings, right? And there's no pressure on you, right? A lot more difficult on the field. But that's something I think the Rams have to adjust to, and now they're forced to use some of the more athletic guys to do so. I also think that there's going to be more of an emphasis on getting Ferguson the ball downfield, or just getting the ball in general. One of the things that I did not like is when they ran the 2 tight end screens, they ran it with Higbee and Parkinson. Parkinson's fine because Parkinson can get upfield in a hurry. But when you have a guy like Ferguson who can make plays with the ball in his hands, this seems like a perfect situation for that. And that's why I think the Rams are going to be able to find themselves in advantageous positions by simply forcing themselves to play some of these guys that they wouldn't have had to in the past.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned that both Higbee and Havenstein cannot return from IR for the regular season. Is that correct?
No, let me clarify my point. They can't. It's still a 4-game minimum.
Okay.
Nothing changed on them. I bet towards the end of the season is when we're going to be expecting them back.
All right, great. That's good news for everybody to hear. So this game coming up, at the beginning of the year, we kind of earmarked this one as an interesting one to watch. The interest has definitely died down. Baker Mayfield is still Baker Mayfield. This defense is still good, even if Hassan Reddick won't be out there. But what are you looking for in this game? Is there a chance for an upset, or do you think this is a comfortable win on Sunday Night Football?
I think there's always a chance for an upset when Baker Mayfield's on the field. I mean, for some reason, SoFi Stadium brings the best out of him. Obviously, going back to 2022, we remember what he did for the Rams. not only just that comeback victory against the Raiders, which everyone talks about for good reason. What we don't talk about just at all, media, fans, players, whatever, the Rams blowing out the Denver Broncos on like Christmas Day, leading to the Nathaniel Hackett game 5. That was big for Mayfield running the show as well on that. So, and also when he was at Tampa, when he played the Chargers last season, he beat them badly. So I think he's going to have that type of performance against the Rams. From a scoring standpoint, I don't know how many points he'll put up. I do think he'll have some statistical success on the field. I also apologize if you hear a loud meow in the background. As a first-year beat writer, we don't make a lot of money, so I'm in a small apartment here. And unfortunately, my partner has a senile cat that loves to shout at this time of the morning. It's gorgeous. But with all that being said, I think the Rams defense also understands who they're going up against because everyone's been talking about it, right? Baker Mayfield, tough, makes critical throws, will not get tackled easy, is able to make plays on his feet, going forward and just extending plays and hitting targets downfield. And when you combine that with some of the threats that they have, especially when it appears Chris Godwin is coming back, this is not a game that they're going to take lightly. The good news for the Rams is this. One, they have a team that's firing on all cylinders and who just got chin checked against the Seahawks last week. So it's not like they're coming in with this overt confidence that they might have in the past. And the second thing is, it's a primetime game. Whenever there's a primetime game, good teams always show up. The Rams have always showed up for primetime games. So I expect this to be a tight one until late, where the Rams have a score that they can increase kind of that 2-position lead and cruise that until the end.
Excellent. Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful pick there, I would say. Yeah, let's get to some of these questions that your readers sent in. We kind of covered Quentin Lake, Roger McCreary already. You know, the special teams, Dan Orlovsky was out there saying that this is the one thing that might cost them a chance at the championship. I'm not sure if that was exact words, but you know, in the playoffs, when it comes down to it, special teams really becomes big. What's going on with Harrison Mevis and Joshua Karty?
So yeah, let's dive into that. So Mevis was of course signed to the active roster, so that could be a practice squad activation, which is good because he only had one more remaining. This indicates he's going to be the kicker for the rest of the year. The interesting part is this. Obviously, we got to wait till next week to see what the Rams do. But if the Rams keep Joshua Karty on the roster, I think that there is a possibility they're going to have both of them active at some point in the season so that they can institute the knuckleball kick again. This is nothing that I've seen. This is nothing that I've heard. I want to make this very, it was pure speculation on my end, being the fact that they haven't moved Joshua Karty yet. Of course, that could all change next week. They could release him and then move on and so forth. However, they haven't yet, and because of the IR activations, I believe they still have one open active spot on the 53-man roster. So it is going to be interesting how they kind of navigate that as well. They also got to consider they have guys that have to bring back at this point in the season. Tutu Atwell possibly can come back next week. Of course, Akilla Witherspoon is down the road, and then everybody else. If the Rams, sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say this. If the Rams do keep Karty on the roster, it would make a lot of sense for them to have him active because he can be critical in that area while they also have Ethan Evans to do the standard kickoff, should that be the route that they go on. When it comes to Harrison Mevis, Darolowski was right. In a 2-point victory against the Seahawks, Mevis went 3 for 3 on kicks. You look at Philadelphia, you look at 49ers, the two games that they lost, both of those games had critical block kicks. So when it comes to finding consistency, even though I think Joshua Karty got the bad end of the stick for a variety of reasons, they have a process and an operation that has been consistent. I think they're not going to play with it from here on out. So I don't expect the kicking competition to open up. If Joshua Karty is to play again, it would be on kickoffs.
Yeah, really, really interesting movements over there on that side of the ball. You know, just a phase that has plagued this, and everybody, you know, Karty was doing so well. You know, there's all that speculation about the knuckleball kick actually being a detriment to his timing and his motion. I'm not sure if we had already talked about that bit about it, but I mean, you know, we have not seen Mevis kick a field goal. I believe it's just been the extra points. At practice, have you seen him nail some 50-yarders, some 60-yarders, anything like that? Has he got the leg? Has he got the accuracy?
Unfortunately for the portion that we're allowed to see, I haven't had a chance to see if he can hit some of those deep kicks and keeping that under lock and key, of course, for a good reason. But looking back at his college tape, there really is no reason to think that he can't hit some of the longer kicks. When you start talking about like Brandon Aubrey range, that's when you're going to start to see those limitations kind of happen. The good news, though, is that for the Rams, they're an offense that can get into those 40 to 55, I would say, yard range. And if they can get to that area, I think Mevis will be more than fine.
It's had such an interesting effect on McVay in his aggressiveness on fourth down and in the red zone. So in a way, kind of going back to what you were saying, it's sort of a blessing in disguise. He's become a much more, I think in the Seattle game, that was the big difference where on the Seattle side of things, they were not aggressive once they got down into the red zone. They were kicking field goals and McVay was just going for it. So there you go. So Emmanuel Forbes has been balling out. He's had a couple of picks, and he had that really amazing pass breakup in the end zone against Seattle. You had some questions about Forbes. Obviously, a lot of confidence coming from the coaching staff about the secondary, which everybody kind of poo-pooed as the weakest link in this chain, including myself. They've come a long way, and it seems like everybody's playing with a lot of confidence. What are you seeing from what have you over your several months covering this team? What have you seen from Forbes and how he's changed and adjusted and grown into this role that he's playing in now?
So I've been fortunate to speak with Emmanuel on a variety of occasions. First time was a trading camp with my guy First and Tuna. I don't know if you guys check him out, but he's another great content creator. Yeah, great. He's one of the guys. So we had a chance to speak with him then, and then had an opportunity to speak with him throughout the season, along with Aubrey Pleasant, his cornerbacks coach, a guy who Shula said is like the best quarterback developer in the NFL. And that kind of goes into it. So immediately when Forbes comes into the Rams in 2024, it's Pleasant that essentially greets him at the door and says, I don't know what happened in the past. I don't care. You're here now. It's a fresh start. Let's get to work and let's get you right. Emmanuel bought into it immediately. I think that's the part that doesn't get mentioned enough. His success, everyone talks about, well, if we go to the Rams, they have this great rehabilitation program for players. They can restart their careers, go on a different trajectory. That's true. The part that doesn't get mentioned is Emmanuel's day-to-day commitment to getting better. Not only was he practicing all the stuff that he was getting criticized for in coverage, he made an emphasis on improving himself physically. One, just bulking up in general and becoming a more physical player, which allowed the Rams to trust him in these bad looks because when the teams run to the outside, they have confidence that he's going to come up and make a play, which he has been doing these past several weeks. Along that 2024 into the offseason, people didn't really talk about him because he was just kind of a player over there, former first-round pick. What we're going to see, this and that. Then came the shocker in week one, which was him starting alongside Taylor Witherspoon. Darius Williams was the odd man out in that rotation. Obviously, Witherspoon goes out, and then comes the critical part of the season, which is that 49ers game. The Rams did not play Forbes at all compared to Williams and Durant. They got absolutely burned. Kendrick Bourne looked like Jerry Rice, the second coming of it. It was bizarre to watch. Since that moment, the Rams have put their trust in Forbes, and Forbes has repaid them tenfold, essentially. Obviously, you see a player who's much more aggressive as a tackler. You see him sound in coverage. The one question was, will he get burnt on the double moves, and will he give up that long touchdown on the boundary? Well, when the Rams are forced to run cover three, to drop safeties into the box or run whatever covers they wanted to in order to stop that inside quick throw, they left their entire boundary exposed. And the Seahawks went after him twice. One was with Jackson Smith-Njigba in the end zone. The other one was with Rashid Shaheed. Two fast, phenomenal players. And what did Emmanuel Forbes do? Come up with the play twice. And that kind of rounds off exactly what the Rams have been preparing him for the entire time. The kind of the moment I think it clicked for him was against the Saints when he got that pick, because you start to see him go from being a player who was playing good, sound football to having that aggressiveness in him again. And then you see him get the tip and then the pick against the 49ers. And then he's just been allowing himself to be put into vulnerable positions because he has the confidence to know that he can go and make that play. And when you have a player that's playing like that, who's not playing defensive at the cornerback position, I think it was either Rod Woodson or Deion Sanders that said it. But when you have a cornerback that doesn't play defensive, it changes everything about what you're able to do schematically. And because of that, I think that we're going to see the Rams be able to bring a lot more blitzers because they have that trust in Forbes that he's not going to be burnt that like in the way that he was, back in Washington.
Yeah, interesting. The complementary part of the secondary has been the pass rush. Now, everybody came into this year thinking that they were going to take a big step forward. You got an interesting question about the pass rush. It's any insight on our pass rush with the lack of sacks? Have they changed their scheme? Opponents' O-line adjusting, or are they just regressing? Verse is going about pressure for pressure to what he was last year. Kobe Durant and Braden Fiske on the inside, a little lower. And you got a big bump on the other side with Byron Young playing lights out this year in a contract year, no less. What are your thoughts on the defensive line and why, the sack numbers aren't really coming?
So there's a variety of factors, and there's nothing the Rams are doing wrong. However, there are some things that pop out on tape. One, they're blitzing a lot less. Just out of the numbers, but just for my visual thing, you see Quentin Lake when Lake was on the field, he was dropping more in coverage. They didn't have a Killer Witherspoon who they love to burn on the blitz, so that was another aspect that they weren't bringing. And they haven't sent Emmanuel Forbes. They don't send Kobe Durant, so that's one factor so far. The second factor is this: as I talked about with the secondary, that was a big question kind of coming into the season. Their main goal was to do this, was to build that defensive shield and to allow their inside guys to play with a small field. And that's what they've been doing. As a counter to that, the offense has been designing plays, the opposition's offense has been designing plays to get the football out of the quarterback's hands in under 3 seconds. So that also plays a massive factor into things. Then you also look at the way that they construct the defense. They're in dime all the time. So teams are going to run the ball more, which is going to impact how many pass rushing reps players get in general. And then the last thing is the Michael Hoyt rule. It's gone in a way I did not expect. I thought Byron Young, that was just going to be his role throughout the season. That's not what's really happened. It's been kind of rotated in. Jared Verse has played it a little bit. Josiah Stewart has kind of taken a big portion of it. And as an overall defensive construction, it's been very effective. It's also forced other teams to consider that Byron Young and Jared Verse are on the edge. So again, we need to get the ball out quickly, which means obviously short routes, which also means you got to have some of those screen passes, flare routes, things of that nature. And though the Rams may have the tackles for the loss of the pressure, you're not going to be able to get a sack when the ball is like this and you got a 30-pound lineman in front of you. With all that being said, I hate sacks as a stat, honestly, because I know that it's going to sound very McVay-ish. Stats are for losers, which I understand why he says it. But as a sports writer, stats are my life. But stats are one thing. Pressures are another. And when you look, as you mentioned, at the pressure rate, not just in Jared Verse, but across the entire defensive line, this is one of the best units in the NFL. So and then when you start looking at the overall production, in the past 5 games, they've given up over 20 points once, and that was a late touchdown to George Kittle. I mean, I think that kind of says it itself. There's a lot of teams that can go out there and get covered sacks, but if the team is giving up 25 points a game, does it really matter?
Yeah. Thinking of Chris Shula and, the complementary nature of that side of the ball, which I think not enough people are talking about, with the pass rush getting pressure that allows the secondary to play with a lot more confidence and a lot more speed. And, the complementary nature of it is really showing itself right now in the form of 4 interceptions and 0 sacks. Good amount of pressure in the second half on Sam Darnold. And a lot of those interceptions were definitely affected. At least 3 of them were affected by pressure in a big way. And Baker Mayfield is a little bit different story, far more mobile. He can get out to the outside and affect the game that way. So it'll be interesting to see if they can set that edge, keep that edge, against Baker Mayfield. Before we hit this last question, we got to pay the bills. Sleeper Fantasy, fastest growing daily fantasy site out there. We've got a great coupon code for you, Rams LAFB. If you put in $100, they'll give you $100. If you put in 50, they'll match you 50. And what are you going to do with all that money? You're going to play 2 to 8 players, over-unders, passing yards, anytime touchdowns. It's a ton of fun. There's a social aspect to it. You can play with friends. You can meet new Rams fans. You can play any sport, really. We got hockey going on. Obviously, basketball's in full swing. So lots of fun stuff. Hey, if you don't want to put in money, you just sign up. You sign up, you get $20. Try it out, and you can stack these too. So stack those two coupons and have yourself a good time. And you can win some money too. We can't forget that. So go check out Sleeper Fantasy if you haven't yet. Do that. They're going to be with us all season, so we're going to keep talking about it. So just go sign up and have yourself some fun making some money. Anyhow, the last question I want to ask is a little less football focused, a little bit more national media focused. Well, actually, you're. Let me pose a different question. You're on the board that Chris Shula is going to get hired by the Miami Dolphins. I think is that your stance?
I was until about 8 hours ago.
Oh, okay. What happened 8 hours ago?
I saw the vision of a better job coming Shula's way.
Oh, okay. Which one is that? Do you want to drop the take or you want to keep it?
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. I think, obviously, this is not no sources on this. So this is purely speculation, and this is just a concoction of my own mind. And I still think Miami is 100% option. I would love to dive into it still, but I think based on what I saw last night, the true job is going to be Buffalo.
Oh,
so I thought this before the season, and I still think this now. This is McDermott's, dare I say, prove it year, but I'm going to say prove it year because I think Buffalo, the fan base, the front office, ownership, they're tired of the constant stalling out in the same position. And while they have tremendous respect for everything McDermott has done in the past, this is the now, and you need to win right now. Then I look at a GM like Brandon Beane, right, who had got flamed for that comment he said about the Rams. Oh, I don't want to launch into a rebuild at the Rams. Everyone's like, yeah, but they won a Super Bowl. I'm willing to launch into a rebuild to win a title. And then you start to see what happened after that comment. Whereas 3 years later, the Rams are in the exact same position, if not better than the Bills, and they have a title. Because of that, because of the strong defensive identity, because they go out and make moves like signing Michael Hoyt, in free agency, and considering the type of defense that they like to run, the cap situation, and also some of the Rams' impending free agents, and how much the Bills do not mind spending on the defensive side of the ball, I think that Shula just became a top candidate for Buffalo, especially with his noise being with Miami and also the New York Giants. So that's my hot take.
I love it. Yeah, thanks for dropping that on the show. Yeah, I mean, for as much as being criticized as other GMs and the Rams are included in that, they pick up a lot of former Rams players, that's for sure. Taylor Rapp was over there. Michael Hoyt's over there. A couple other guys that I'm not remembering, but yeah. So you got this question about the national media talking a lot about Seattle coming out of the game as like almost a moral victory, even though the Rams seemed pretty in control for much of that game. Not a lot of people talking about the Rams. You come out and you say that write in your article that the national media doesn't like the Rams. And I want to spin this into another question you got about Matthew Stafford's MVP chance. National media is who votes for the MVP in part. And, it's a narrative award. It's a popularity contest. So what is it about the Rams that national media just kind of looks the other way on, doesn't want to take notice of? And what does Matthew Stafford have to do to kind of get over that bias and win this award and maybe his last year?
The best thing for Matthew Stafford to do to win MVP is move to the East Coast. That's really it. And it's not so much just the Rams, even though there is a massive bias against the Rams. There's also just a massive bias against West Coast football in general in the NFL. And you kind of see it a little bit with Justin Herbert, some of the stuff that happened in San Francisco, even Seattle, to an extent too, in terms of the dialogue made about the NFL or the narratives written. Stafford, if you put Stafford's stat line, I know stats for losers, I know, but if you put Stafford's stat line and instead of Matthew Stafford, you write Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or any of those kind of bigger quarterbacks in terms of recognition, this is not even a conversation. Put Drake May as Matthew Stafford's stat line, and it's not even a conversation anymore about who's the MVP. And that's where the bias starts to come in. I don't think people want to recognize what's happening on the West Coast. I think part of the reason is the timing of everything. For some reason, the afternoon games are also in line with like East Coast people's nap time. So I don't think a lot of them get a chance to, or just willingly don't watch what the Rams are doing. So the only times they have had a chance to see them this season is that Tennessee game, is the Eagles game, and situations where Stafford wasn't. I don't want to use the word at his best, but when the product wasn't what it is right now. On top of that, I mean, I just go back to this offseason when I read an article that took into account the opinions of coaches, players, executives, right? All these knowledgeable people that said Puka Nacua wasn't a top 10 wide receiver, and also somehow Tyreek Hill was number 3. And when you see something like that, you already know people are going to be on that time, right? So, kind of to wrap up my answer to this question is the Rams are never going to get the national attention because they're a West Coast team. And also, I think that for some people, some of the old heads, there's still like this overt bitterness about their move from St. Louis that just will not allow some to see the reality of what's going on in the NFL. And that is the fact that the Rams are at the forefront of yet another offensive innovation in the Sean McVay era.
Yeah. I never really thought about the West Coast bias, but we've got all the really good stuff out here. So if they're gonna, the West is the best in so many ways. So if they want to keep the football awards to themselves, I guess they can have that, and we'll take the beautiful California coastline.
Yeah, exactly. For some reason, if it doesn't snow in your state perpetually, you don't deserve national awards. I mean, I just go back to Cooper Kupp, right? And yeah, sure, Rodgers was the MVP, but you talk about a single wide receiver taking over the NFL, and you're not going to give him MVP. Okay, well, all right, whatever.
Yeah, early on, I was trying to make the case for a Puka Nacua MVP conversation, but it's a quarterback award now, that's for sure. But I just want to thank you for coming on. I love what you're doing over there for Rams on SI. Go check out his stuff over there. Follow him on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
At Brock Vierra. So real easy, guys.
2 R's in Vieira there. Remember that. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in once again, coming back and checking out the Rams LAFB show. Go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube if you're enjoying what you're hearing, and definitely tell your friends. We will be back later today. Aaron Coscarelli is going to join us, give us a rundown about what is happening on Friday at Rams HQ. Until then, folks, we will just be waiting around for some more Rams football. Talk to you soon.